Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Kim,
Here.
Jim,
Here.
Joe,
Here.
and Heather is not present. Marlene,
Here.
Cindy,
Here.
and myself, Jared, is here. Approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I second, this Kim, I second. Approve
All in favor?
agenda.
Aye.
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 Approval of board minutes for May 29th, 2025.
I make a motion that we approve the board minutes from Thursday, May 29th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Visitor comments?
These day visitor comments.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Christopher Ramlogan.
Could you go up to the mic, please?
Hello, my name is Christopher Ramlogan, and I have some comments, and I have some paperwork. First I have, this is a building shutdown process of your hospital. And this is the device in the pictures as well. So regarding the services rendered in the current matters of a situation, 4 mediations after work was completed, price point reductions, and a complete audit, adjusting the price points in the favor of Mr. Brooks, an amount was presented and discussed with Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks's response was to deduct 12,000 USD additionally. The audit requested exposed inconsistencies in Mr. Brooks' claims to lack of transparency, as well as a premeditated plan for a price point reduction to services rendered afterward. As published in your newspaper, you worked with Absolute Drains and flew in an additional contractor from outside of state who had specialized experience in this type of project. That statement is incorrect. Stating thus removes the credit and skill set from the team that performed the task and provided results. Thus, an explanation of specialized labor force delivery charge, which was not agreed upon or disclosed, but is now being presented. Myself, working with and as a GS-13 contractor within the plumbing and heating industry in 6 countries, before starting my own company, Absolute Drains, I have professionally performed multiple hospital shutdowns around the globe. My reputation is beyond the United States as I have traveled 17 countries, 6 of where my skill set and services were specifically rendered. The remote access hospital shutdown project located in Petersburg, Alaska. The reason why the 6-inch pipe was not replaced as scheduled was due to Mr. Brooks failing to obtain correct materials, as well as
Sir?
not allowing.
Point of order.
Sir, point of order. You cannot mention people's names.
I understand.
Okay.
Apologies. As well as not allowing Absolute Drains Plumbing and Heating to purchase a prefabricated section of pipe for that replacement. Thus, the responsibility of the work not being performed is not on Absolute Drains. Do you have any other questions?
No, sir.
Would you like any additional information?
All I can do is take your comments, sir.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time
And then
and comments.
when you are done with that information, I would like to recollect it from you.
Okay. Are there any other visitor comments? Yes, go ahead. Sir, would you restate your name again? I didn't catch it. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Laura Holder. I'm the home health manager. Can I mention names if I want to thank people?
Yes, we
Okay.
can for that.
You may have read in the pilot that I resigned from my position. And I wanted to specifically thank Jackie Groen for the work she's done for our department. She has been the office manager since before I started. Jackie is retiring, a much-deserved retirement. Her last day is Monday, and it makes me want to cry to think about it. She is one of the most competent, classy, professional, accomplished people I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of wonderful people. I want to thank her because she's the only reason home health has ever gotten paid. She's the only reason Bartlett's Home Health has gotten paid. She's built relationships with the Manor. She is all the things that I'm not as a leader, and I want her to know that her loss is just incalculable to me and to this facility. Having said that, she deserves to retire and retire well. So part of what I want to say as a leader and somebody who's leaving a leadership role, ironically for a lot of the same reasons that Kirsten did before me, is that Jackie and I and the rest of our team, Brandy Boggs, specifically Stephanie Romine as well, really rebuilt home health. And I take a very small portion of that credit. I want to give most of that credit to the people I just mentioned, as well as our clinical team that has helped me. Specifically, Brandy, you probably, if you're listening to this in the community, she helps people with benefits programs. She helps people far beyond home health. That's probably minimally what she does. And so she is part of our team rebuilding home health, and then Stephanie as well. I had a whole thing I wanted to say, and I'm just going completely off script now that I'm standing here. Stephanie is a quality coordinator and a wonderful nurse, and she is also all the things I'm not. She is the cross T dotted I nurse. She fixes problems I'm not even smart enough to know exist. And just like the other folks I mentioned, the facility is lucky to have them. I am hoping that as I leave and as Jackie leaves, we're going through the same process again. And we isn't me, because I'm not going to be there. I am hoping that the people that we have in place, that we have worked very hard to be ready to take over from us, are supported by this organization to do so effectively. We are a very special subunit of the hospital in terms of being different in our regulations, different in our billing, different in a lot of the aspects of just how we provide care, how we interact with payers, how we interact with the community, who's qualified for what. And that's a special skill that is just different in the way that we process claims and the way that we manage patients. So the most charitable way I can say that is to say that I hope the organization supports the people that are still there. I think they do important work. It's been an honor for me and our community to take care of community members. If you've let me in your home and trusted me with that, it's an honor. I will definitely miss that. I've been a nurse for 16 years. So my last point, hopefully I'm not out of time, is that just the definition of insanity, saying the same things over and over again, expecting different results. The things I would hope happen that I've said until I'm blue in the face. I would love to see support for a medical social worker for the hospital. I think that that would make a big difference for safe discharges, something that in home health we see a lot, right? I want to see safe discharges to our community. I would advocate for that to you all who are ultimately responsible. I would love to see, secondary to that, a formal process for feedback for the community. That's not an opinion, that's a regulatory requirement. We should have a way that's really easy to access for people to say good things and bad things about their care, and a formal process to respond to that. And that should be abundantly clear to all of our patients, consumers. I'd love to see that prioritized. Again, that's not an opinion, that's a requirement that I want to see. A lot of hospitals have a patient advocate or somebody that is responsible for that role. I think that would go a long way for the provision of care. So ultimately, like I said, I want to thank Jackie. I want to honor her service to our community. Let her know that I hope she has a wonderful retirement, and personally thank the community for letting me be a nurse here. So that's all.
Thank you for your time and comments. Any other visitor comments? Board member comments? Yes, Marlene?
Wanted to remind the community of the upcoming pedal paddle battle, which will be Saturday, July 19th. This event is a fundraiser from Petersburg Medical Center Foundation. And the money that is raised from this goes to education, goes to scholarships for the high school students, and for staff that wants to do some kind of continuing education or go back for another degree, and it's the Norma Tinfeard scholarships that are funded with this money. It's a lot of fun. You can ride a bike or you can paddle a paddleboard or a kayak from Scal Bay to Sandy Beach. When you get to Sandy Beach, there's a big picnic. There's prizes and for people who are raising the money and for the people who are sponsoring the people that are doing the paddling and the pedaling. They all get thrown into the hat for the prizes, which include Alaska Airlines tickets and a stand-up paddleboard and a dry bag tote. A lot of community support from different businesses and entities in town that we're very thankful for. And so I'd encourage people to participate in one way or another, paddling, pedaling, or sponsoring somebody who will be participating.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Moving on to old business, PMC water system isolation and RPZ assembly replacement. Did any of the board members have any comments on that report? That report? Committee reports, resource?
Overall, PMC finances are doing well. Patient volumes across service areas have generally been up a bit. We're working on a Medicare interim rate review right now, and we may need to repay some funds, though we did get a check back in January. Things do change seasonally, however, and we're able to use some expenses such as small equipment purchases to offset future repayment charges. It's worth noting that if the hospital charges below its cost, Medicare and Medicaid pay our cost, but commercial insurance does not. And Phil covered some of the challenges and concerns with the funding of these programs during the midday radio talk. And you can go to the KFSK website to listen if you missed today's conversation. Our in-house billing team continues to do a good job, and the 340B program is also bringing in some revenue, and we might also be able to make some retroactive claims for reimbursement under this program for approved medications. And this program, just so to remind folks, helps PMC stretch its dollars to better serve low-income and uninsured patients. Overall, our hospital operating expenses have decreased because we no longer pay HRG for billing services. In addition, our days cash on hand have increased, and we've been able to resolve the PERS retirement system payment to the state. They were having some technology issues. Along those lines, our bottom line is solid. At our meeting, we discussed the relationship between the board and our investment counselor, and our approach to our investments is conservative, and the fund continues to grow. And on the grant horizon, we did have a school-based grant recall. We're working with the state for some funding, however, and collaborating with 2 other Alaska critical access hospitals on HRSA grant funding. The focus in general is on multi-year grants when possible, but we also seek out some annual grants, and staff is gonna or can add more detail on the current state of grant funding in their report. And in conclusion, I also want to publicly thank the Elks Lodge. They provided funding for the kayaks for our orca camps. So I wanted to recognize that.
Thank you, Cindy, for that report. Any questions on that report? LTC?
This is Marlene. I attended the long-term care quality meeting on June 18th. Progress has been made on the polypharmacy that refers to patients in long-term care that are on multiple medications, sometimes from multiple different doctors, and how to simplify what people are on and make sure that they're not on things that are inappropriate. The psychiatrist that has been providing telemedicine visits made a visit to Petersburg, provided training to providers, and also was able to do actual face-to-face visits with several of the patients in long-term care. And the main focus on the meeting was how to come up with a process to establish a waiting list for long-term care beds when the need for beds is higher than the actual beds available. And the priorities are to make some kind of a process that will be very fair and have clear criteria. The next meeting is July 16th, and I won't be here if anybody else can attend the meeting.
I won't be here either possibly.
I can attend. I think there's either a quality or an infection meeting the same day, so I could do both.
Okay. Thank you, Marlene. Any questions on that report? Thank you. Human Resources, were there any questions regarding Cindy's report? Comments? I do want to make a couple just because every time I read about them, I see that we've got 13 vehicles and 18 apartments. I think it goes to show how many traveling employees we have and the needs that we have to supply for those traveling employees. I just have to comment on it every time I see that. Were there any other comments regarding that report? Thank you, Cindy, for that report. New facility. Were there any questions regarding the new facility construction report?
I have one.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah, it talks about the grand opening in September. I just wonder if any date has been picked yet or not.
Yeah, hi, this is Justin. Yeah, I don't think we've landed on an exact. There's still kind of a lot going on, even after substantial completion. July 20th, we have the FF&E and the MRI magnet showing up, and then pretty much all of August is going to be used for kind of the transitional period after we get the actual building set up. So we're tentatively shooting for, probably the second week of September, but we're kind of holding off on a specific date just yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions regarding that report of Justin's? Do you have anything to add to it, Justin?
No, not really.
Okay, thank you for that report.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a quality report from Stephanie. Any questions regarding that report? None? Thank you, Stephanie, for that report. We have a infection prevention report from Rachel. Any questions regarding that report? Thank you, Rachel, for that report. Executive summary.
Any questions on my report before I provide a high-level overview?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
One of your pictures shows a staircase in the parking lot. It's on page 25. Are there going to handrails be put on those steps?
Hey, Jim, I can answer that question.
Yeah, Justin,
Yeah.
let's go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, there's still handrails being built for that. They're being fabricated
Okay.
off-site. Yeah, that was actually a kind of a add-on. Wasn't originally in the drawings, but we knew it was going to be utilized. It's kind of a shortcut, so to speak. So we put in a set of concrete stairs and had some steel handrails fabricated. So
Okay, that's
The
good.
answer is yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so a couple of things, and I mentioned them at the KFSK as well today, was really focused on providing information this past month. I I wrote a op-ed with assistance with Katie, our grant writer as well, but and just advocacy on concern for the Medicaid cuts that are occurring or may be occurring, and the impacts to rural communities, and provided also letters to Senator Murkowski and Sullivan, which I attached in this packet as well, just to keep you abreast of the information supplied and information out there. I was asked to be at a press conference yesterday with the Alaska Cancer Association. And they provided that. I did that through Zoom, and I was out of Anchorage. So I don't know if there's any information out there, but just to let you aware if there's any comment on there that I was part of that. Other than that, ramping up with the summer Kinderskog program, lots of camps that are occurring. Pretty exciting to see some of those come to fruition and continue to grow in that respect. Our patient volumes it's been very no let up in a lot of ways. We've had a lot of volume in our ER inpatient. Summertime is always a little busier as well, but still seeing some of those consistent numbers, not the peaks and valleys that we tend to run into, both on the inpatient ER and swing bed. A little less than the previous months, but still a lot more than in the past. I was really excited to have Dr. Sonkis, our psychiatrist that we're working with through a telepsych program. He came on site, building that relationship with him, and in turn him with our physicians and our patients. And it was a very successful trip, very informative, and also we're looking forward to having him continue to work with us in the future. And then we had our derm clinic recently. PA French was here again, saw lots of patients. I don't remember, it was over 100 patients again, really busy, did part of the great community service, lots of good positive feedback on that going forward. And I did show the numbers here as well, so you can see that on the inpatient days, the ER visits, and then also the average census on our long-term care. So fairly busy. Oh, I see the steps now, Jim, on the page. There's a different page number, but I see what you're talking about now. So for the work building, I spent quite a bit of time up at the work building, just taking a look at that, walking the facility with the superintendent, with Wolf, and also with Justin this past week, and just taking really getting an understanding of the layout of the site itself, and some prospects and potential for the future and what that's going to look like. And so we're looking forward for more information and our more to come on that kind of situation. I think we're going to have a pretty robust, the board meeting, and the budget packet, and also with the finance. We covered a lot of ground at the resource committee, and Jason's going to present his financials. So I'll let him take care of that information. But do you have any questions on my report? Anything that I'm maybe missing or overseeing or overlooking that you need more information on? Otherwise,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. It looks like these letters went out June 13th to the senators. Have you received any feedback at all?
I did get acknowledgement from Senator Murkowski's office. I got nothing from Senator Sullivan's office.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Phil? Thank you, Phil, for that report. Financials?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, should be coming on screen, the statistics page. Go through that real quick, just highlighting some of our busy activities that have gone on across the organization. So we can see that the clinic visits, 833. So year to date, 8,418. So almost 400 visits higher than the previous year. We've been busier in light of the fact that we haven't had as many specialty clinics. Last year, we had a few more specialty clinics. Radiology is busier this year as well, 265 in the month of April. Am I looking at the right financials?
No,
No.
you got last
Okay.
month.
I pulled up the wrong set. I thought okay. Well, I may have to forego that. Let me just speak to the highlights. No, here we go. I got it. I got it almost again. So give me just a minute. I will reshare. Okay. Just a couple minutes. June 20th. Okay, there we go. That's much better. Okay. Hopefully this has got the full set of financials then. I see the May column. That helps a lot. So 864 clinic visits, 238 radiology visits, lab tests, 2,500, very strong for the month. Rehabilitation, 1,200. Home health visits, 192. And emergency department at 86. We can see the emergency department, typically in the winter months, we see about 60 a month, 60 to 65. In the summer months, 80, even 90 visits per month there. Acute care, 41 patient days in the month of May. Swing bed, 58. It's down a little bit from the two previous months, but on par for the average. We have definitely seen an above average number of swing bed. ICF, those are patients that are waiting to get into the nursing home. 54 for the month. Almost 2 patients waiting to get into the emergency or into the nursing home services. Long-term care is pretty full, 426 residents days there. So just recapping kind of what has been already been said, that the clinical departments are very busy. Revenues for the month, gross revenues 2.9 compared to a budget of 2.3. And inpatient was the strongest. There's $100 million in revenue in outpatient, and then long-term care 648. That patient revenue is above budget by 564 at 2.4 million. You can see some revenues there from the 340B program, third month in a row. Our expenses, total expenses, 2,331,000. So expenses are up. It was commented by Jared and others. In order to service all these patients, we've had some travelers. So our expense for staff, our expense for travelers, and supplies are up because of 340B. Some minor equipment that we've tried to purchase as we neared the end of the year. So expenses are up 261. Overall net income for the month, 346,000, 353 above budget. So doing very well. Investments rebounded well this past month from some of the chaos dealing with the tariffs and some things of that nature. And of course, the revenues, we've talked about this several times. We're recording the revenues from this capital grant. There's no expenses at this point. Over the next 30 years, we will depreciate the building, we'll expense the building a piece at a time. There won't be revenues there to match that other than our operating revenue. So there's a misalignment of that. Okay. Balance sheet's looking strong. We have 2 million in cash. Accounts payable is also caught up, doing well in that area. Overall doing well. Just wanted to speak a little bit to the projects that we are working on. Cindy had commented about an interim rate review that was completed by the Noridian, which is a contractor for Medicare. And at this point, we've not received a notice that there's a payable or a receivable, but they will be changing our rates going forward. They'll be decreasing our payments for the swing bed program because our volumes are up, but they'll be increasing our payments for the long-term care, or excuse me, for the outpatient services. The other item that we have completed just recently is the renewal of our insurances. Sarah's and others have done a great job of submitting those applications, received those quotes back. We have decided to increase some coverages in some areas, going from 1 million per incident, 3 million in global, to 2 million, 4 million. The reason for this is trying to expand our stroke program, and the stroke program requires that. We've also increased some of our coverages for directors and officers insurance, things of that nature. So that will be taken care of, and that premium paid the 1st of July. I'm not sure that Katie Bryson, are you going to go over the grants? I need to go over one more thing, but I need to pull up the
I'm happy to, Jason.
budget.
Yeah, of course.
So if you'll do that, I don't know if you
Sure.
want to share your screen and go through it, and then I will find the budget so that I can come back after your presentation and just
Okay,
answer
yeah.
any questions on the budget.
Sure. Let me
Okay.
pull it up. That open and share from my end. All right, can everyone see that all right on your end?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've had an update on this just as of yesterday. I'll start with the good news, some of which I think Cindy was mentioning early in the meeting. We've got our funded requests from the past year, which you'll notice are all 1-year awards. Ideally, we would see multi-year larger awards like we've seen that run some of our other programs, our fall prevention program, our telepsychiatry program, adult day services. Those grant opportunities were almost zero so far this fiscal year in terms of the federal fiscal year, federal funding, but also pretty minimal on the state side, and the state budget is leading to some uncertainty even on the grants that were awarded. So all in all, we're very fortunate that we ended up having a pretty reduced grants year because the grants we do have are fairly stable in terms of our multi-year grants. So we've got a few pending requests still out that we should hear about by August. Ideally, September would be the latest we would hear on that Senate appropriations grant that's kind of been kicked down the road since a year ago, but we'll see. We may not hear about that by September. The other 2 smaller grants, we should hear one way or another by the end of the summer. Our 2 new facility grants are both going to be operational for the coming year, fiscal year 26. And then our program and personnel grants that we're operating in, excuse me, FY 25. Yes, we did have that cancellation of the school-based health services grant, which was not related to performance. That was a very strongly performing grant. And of course, our unbelievable partners at the school district who helped make that happen, and Ashley and Nicole and Abby, who staffed that program to provide school-based health services, did an incredible job. Sarah did an incredible job helping account for what was a fairly complex, for its size, grant to administer. Unfortunately, it was recalled in the CDC funding recall in March, some of which was retroactive by the time they notified us that our grant had been recalled. It was almost 2 weeks past the point that they had a stop work on that. But we're working with the state to potentially recoup some of those costs, and the school district immediately stepped up to help partner with us and cover those costs to maintain the staff presence in the school. So that was another example of partnership on the ground, making the difference in an uncertain grant moment. We have a number of grants from FY25 that were completed, and then others that will continue their multi-year grant. Brandy and I today were on our grantee meeting for Adult Day Services, and we're very glad to confirm that there is no prospect to reduce that grant, as many state grantees have heard for their programs in the last few weeks. That grant appears to be fully funded. Of course, I'm knocking on wood just as a, evidence-based practice, but we've also got our opioid settlement funds grant, which is entering its second year, and that provides the telepsychiatry. That grant cannot be reduced because it is funding from a lawsuit settlement at the national level. So the only grant we haven't heard back about yet is the tobacco prevention and control grant, in terms of making sure that that funding stays stable in the coming year. That's a systems change grant and not a direct services grant. So if we have to be unsure about one of them, as much as I hate for Julie and Mariah to hear me say it, because they're doing great work with this grant, I'm okay with it being that one. Kelly had done some very quick work to ensure that we took an opportunity the state offered to get some extra funding for hypertension and diabetes in the coming year, prevention, I should say, hypertension and diabetes prevention in the coming year. And we sort of had a little whiplash where they said it was granted about a week and a half ago. And then yesterday, unfortunately, we were informed that the state is pulling back some of that funding through uncertainty at their budget level. That's not even on here, but if you heard some discussion about that good news, it's tempered. We don't think that will be coming, but Kelly's immediate swift work was so appreciated to help make it happen. Were there any questions about this grant report? I'm sure I've gone on longer than Jason needed me to pull up the next thing, so.
Questions for Katie? Thank you, Katie.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Actually, Katie, you could have talked a little longer. That's okay. But I'm going to have to
Happy to.
ad lib here. I can't, I'm having difficulties pulling up the
Actually,
budget.
Jason, if you don't mind, if I have another minute, I'm always happy to talk for another moment. So I will give a little more of the good news I said I was going to lead with, and then I absolutely didn't, which is that we did get a HRSA grant. I know Cindy mentioned this. This is a one-year award, $100,000, and it is to support the formation of a formal network between the 3 remaining independent community-owned critical access hospitals, which is a project Phil has been working on with Ryan and Hannah from Cordova and South Peninsula for a while now, to try and formalize that relationship and look for any opportunities we can to share costs, and especially when it comes to an increasingly competitive federal health grant landscape, to see if we can combine efforts to bring in health programs. If our population base is not competitive, even in a rural grant context, because there are counties in Ohio with higher population than our entire state. And so competing with them for rural grants can be a little challenging. And we're looking forward to working with our partners in Cordova and South Peninsula as much as possible to identify any opportunity to bring those health services home. So, and I can go on and on about it, Jason, so you just let me know.
There we go. Well, I'm just going to have to ad lib with regards to the budget. I presume there's a copy of the budget in everyone's packet. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
The revised budget or the new budget?
Yeah, there are 2 budgets there. And I apologize, I'm not able to bring them up on the screen at the present moment. I'm having difficulties with my
Jason, we
Wi-Fi.
we can probably get that on the screen. I don't know if Joel's on and willing to share the screen, or I can
could pull
probably
it
do that if you want to wait. But
So the first thing that I wanted to share with you is PMC is a component unit of the borough. And when we pass a budget, it's an appropriation. It's a legal act that authorizes the organization to spend. And over the course of the year, if we have circumstances that occur that cause us to spend more, it's necessary to come back and to pass a revised budget, disclosing some of our variances and explaining what has happened. So there's 2 actions that we need to do tonight. One is to present the revised budget for fiscal year 2025. And so you'll see that there in your packet. The variances that have occurred, number one is we've had an extraordinary amount of patient care that we had to provide. And we're excited that we had the honor and the privilege of caring for more people in our community. But it's also required us to retain more staff and to bring more people in and to have more supplies and expenses of that nature. We've also stood up the pharmacy, the 340B pharmacy. That's led to increased expenses. Another substantial event that occurred is we applied for the ERC, Employee Retention Tax Credit. We did that through a consulting firm, tax advisory firm. There's a fee that is associated with that. We've been awarded upwards of $3 million is what we qualify for. Should that come through and be paid by the federal government, by the IRS, which there is some discussion in this House and Senate this time with regards to that. But should that be paid, then we owe a contingency fee to the consulting firm, and we've recorded both the revenues and the expenses in the 2025 financial statements. And so that is also a significant increase to our expenses there. So wanted to make sure that I answer any questions with regards to our variances. And if that's all too explained well, then I'd be glad to ask the board for approval of the revised budget.
I have one question.
Please.
The bad debt expense went up quite a bit. Why is that?
We've been working through the completion of the what we call the CPSI system. A couple of years ago, we converted away from CPSI into the Cerner system. And so there were several accounts that were outstanding that we have been working on cleaning up and things of that nature. But after all of the efforts that we could do to be able to collect on those accounts, some were sent to bad debt collection agencies. Some were written off due to the time frame since they had been worked. So I believe that's the reason why that's a little bit above budget, or a little bit above normal.
Okay.
Are we looking for a motion to approve
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, under E, there's action required there. It's right there. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the FY25 revised operating budget.
This is Marlene, I so move.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Budget, voice vote.
Yeah.
Paul?
Okay. If that's complete,
We'll go
then
ahead
the
and do a
second
roll
action.
call here and they'll answer directly. Board Member Stratman,
Yes.
Board Member Simbahan,
Yes.
Board Member Cushing, Board Member Cook,
Yes.
Board Member Lagodakis, Board Member Roberts,
Yes.
and Board Member Khan is absent.
Okay, that passes.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear there. I wasn't sure if you had voted or not. So thank you, Sheena, for taking care of that. So the second action there is with regards to the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. Joel, working with department managers, executives, has compiled this coming year budget. And we're indicating somewhat of an increase in revenues. Some of it has to do with the charge master increase. We increased charges for most items by 8% the beginning of July. So here next week, long-term care has been increased a little bit more than that. Next year will be a rebasing year. And so it's necessary that we ensure that our charges are above our cost. Otherwise, Medicaid, when they do the rebasing, will take the lesser of costs or charges, and we won't be able to cover all of our costs. Deductions are a little bit lower than the current year because we anticipate that as we process the cost report and for Medicare and for Medicaid with regards to the new building, the work building, we'll receive some capital add-ons and things of that nature. And so what we write off for those entities will go down. We're also working with some of our payers to renegotiate some rates and anticipate that having a positive impact, decreasing that contractual adjustments or discounts that are given to insurance companies. 340B, we're indicating that we'll have a full year of that program. When we look at those revenues, the rule of thumb there, we notice is that the supplies, the cost for the medications that are a part of that program and the services to be able to facilitate those transactions run about 50% of the cost. So the 340B program we're anticipating will generate about $275,000 of positive surplus for the program. Other revenue or grants and things of that nature, similar to what we've had in the past, maybe a little bit more for the USAC. That's helps us pay for our telephones or data connections. With the work building, we're anticipating that grant going up so to facilitate the connections for that. Expenses, we do have some raises for the organization, 3%, but we also have some additional staff in that area. Contract labor, hoping to see that go down as we continue to recruit and to adjust the market rates that we pay for staff, employee benefits, our insurance. We renewed with Blue Cross Blue Shield. I believe it was a 6% actual decrease in our premium, but we're showing that there will be some additional people participating on the program, and so the overall cost will go up. Supplies expense going up because of volumes, a little bit from inflation. Purchase services, anticipating that going down because there was a kind of a bump up this past year due to that consulting fee for the ERC. Repairs and maintenance, just never know. We're budgeting flat from this previous year, 3% due to inflation, minor equipment. Rentals and leases, hoping to have return a few leases there. Utility bills will go up substantially due to the work building. Travel and training, insurance going up just like we did renew with some higher coverages, so we may be a little bit above what we're budgeting there by the time we get to the end of the year. We're not quite sure. And then the other operating expenses, minor increase. Investment income, we otherwise budgeting the same as this prior year, a little bit less. Just never know where the market's going to go. Interest is based upon our schedules. And then depreciation goes up because we'll begin depreciating the work building. And capital grants goes down because we've finished building the building. There won't be a substantial amount of construction going on in this coming year. Overall, we're anticipating slightly better than a break-even budget. Certainly, we anticipate managing performance. Revenue's a little higher and expenses a little bit lower than this. As this is an appropriation, we do try to budget expenses about 1% to 2% higher than what we anticipate so that we can come in under unless there's an extraordinary event. So I think it's a pretty straightforward budget, but I would take any questions.
On the capital grants from the last 2 years, those are for the building?
Correct. The 8 million and the 13 million.
Yeah. Why would they show up here? Instead of,
Well,
you have the income, but no expenses listed for them to counter them.
correct. We tried to present the budget in the same way that an income statement would be presented. So, this exactly replicates what was there. So we're showing what our capital grants were for the previous 2 years. There will be still a little bit coming into this coming year as we finish up the building in that. But it's just a matter of disclosing that we anticipate those revenues. I know it's an anomaly. Everything else in accounting, you would follow the matching rule and you would say, well, you need to record revenues in the period it's earned, and you need to record the expenses in the period in which they generated the revenue.
Right.
That doesn't apply in this case to capital grants, just an anomaly. So that's why I disclose it.
Okay. But we are expending it. And-
Yeah, so you capitalize the building, you take that, basically $30 million
Yeah.
minus the cost of the property, so about 2 million. So we will depreciate about $28 million over the next, I think our schedule is about a 20-year amortization schedule. We do try to accelerate the depreciation so that it will flow through cost reports to our benefit, providing us additional cash flow early in the depreciation amortization schedules.
Yeah. The net position for next year with 30,000, that's a little precarious.
The net position is actually up. The net position, is that a little bit further down? Is that what you're meaning?
The 30,000 for your net for the budget.
For the bottom line? Okay,
Yeah,
change in
bottom
net
line.
position.
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically, indicating that we'll have a break-even budget.
Mhm.
Cash flows will be very much positive. You would take your depreciation there of almost $3 million and
Mhm.
add that back in because with regards to depreciation, in our case where the building was built with grants, we don't have to cut a check and send that to anybody.
Right.
So positive cash flows, in a cash flow sense, we will have probably a $2 million positive cash flow next year.
Okay.
Are there any other questions regarding this?
Nope.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I just wondered Jason, could you explain Charge Master a little bit, what that means?
Our Charge Master is a great big database. It's basically our menu. It's all of the services that we perform. That might be a lab test, an X-ray, an EKG, might be the charge for the room and board for being on the inpatient unit. We have probably 3,000 lines of charges. We call that a Charge Master. And the beginning of each fiscal year, we determine by how much do we need to increase the Charge Master in order to achieve our financial objectives for the coming year. And we are permitted by our insurance companies that we contract with, Primera and others, to perform up to an 8% rate increase. And given the increased cost of the depreciation, we felt it was necessary to implement an 8% increase in our Charge Master. Now, we do give discounts to our insurance companies, and we give discounts to self-pay individuals who pay time of service or within a certain period of time once they receive their bill, to assist them and encourage them in paying timely. That helps defray those impacts.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion to approve the FY 26 operating budget.
This is Cindy. I so move.
Second it.
Any other discussion?
Board Member Stratman,
Yes.
Board Member Simbahan,
Yes.
Board Member Cushing,
Yes.
Board Member Cook,
Yes.
Board Member Khan, absent, Board Member Lagodakis,
Yes.
Board Member Roberts.
Yes.
Excellent. Is there by chance below this, is there a capital budget listed?
Mhm.
Yes.
No, we didn't discuss that, but we generally budget for a certain amount of equipment replacement. Some items, lower dollar items, we may pay for out of our reserves. Some of the larger items, such as this chemistry analyzer, we may work with a banking institution to lease that over time, over the useful life of that equipment. CT scanner. So these are some items that are wish lists. Our equipment is getting a little older. We do try to replace a little bit every year so that it doesn't all pile up and we have to do it all in one year. But working with our department managers, we have identified these are the priorities for us in the coming year, and would answer any questions with regards to this capital equipment.
Cindy?
Are any of these pieces of equipment something that might at some point be covered by a grant?
Yes, and, you know, oftentimes we do try to find pieces of equipment or, excuse me, grants. We're working with Katie to cover some of these items. And those do come up on occasion. Not always do they match the time frame when we need to purchase something, but after we approve the capital budget, I always like to sit down with our grants manager, grants writer, and say, you know, what do you see out there that we could go and come up with grants to pay for? But even if it's paid for with a grant, we still need the board's approval in a capital budget or in a one-off approval in a future board meeting to approve those as those items come up.
Marlene?
Are we no longer cycling every year a certain amount of replacement for beds and?
I don't know if there's, you know, I've not seen in the last 2 years that we bought, you know, as a pattern or routine, a certain number of beds. We do intend to, is it on here? Probably not on here because we've listed it under minor equipment. We are intending to purchase, yeah, there we go. Software, no, that's software for falls and prevention. So capital equipment are usually items that we purchase that are greater than $5,000 of a useful life, usually 2 to 3 years. And we intend to 1 month in each month in fiscal year 2026, purchase a bed for the long-term care department so that it can be expensed. As I indicated previously, next year is a rebasing year for the nursing home, and it's beneficial for us to have higher costs. It's a good year to make those replacements. And so this previous year, this last couple of months, as we've been in the spring, and so we talked about, we've had very high patient volume, especially swing bed in that. And so Medicare's overpaid us. And so we wanted to, you know, use some of that money. We replaced some equipment for the hospital, but we did not replace equipment for the long-term care unit. We asked them to wait until this year when it's the rebasing year. And so we anticipate over the course of 2026, 1 bed per month, replace all the beds for the long-term care unit. Not anticipating replacing beds for inpatient unit just yet. We would hope to do that as part of the FF&E in the construction of a new hospital. But we'll see how far out that goes, and then conditions of our building, we may see that in a subsequent year.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion to accept the FY 26 capital budget.
Yeah, my motion to accept the FY 22 budget, 26 budget,
Capital budget.
capital budget.
And I'll second that. This is Cindy.
Board Member Stratman,
Yes. Yes.
Board Member Simbahan,
Yes.
Board Member Cushing,
Yes.
Board Member Cook,
Yes.
Board Member Khan is absent. Board Member Lagoudakis,
Yes.
Board Member Roberts.
Yes.
Excellent.
next
Thank you. There's
meeting.
nothing else.
Was there
Is there
anything else?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anything else related to the budgets, unless there's something below the sheet. If not,
Not that I'm aware of.
turn the time back to you.
Okay. Next meeting is looking like July 24th.
So that's a week earlier than normal time due to people being out of office. So that would be July 24th, 2025. Same time, 5:30, but the second, the last Thursday.
I may or may not be here, just depending. I'm scheduled for working that week, but if I come back early, I'll be.
This is Joe. I'll be visiting my parents and I will not be available on the 24th.
I'm flying back that day. I should be here.
Cindy?
We have family visiting, but I should be here.
Jim?
I'll be on Zoom.
Okay, so there'll be enough.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I move we go into executive session to discuss legal matters, medical appointments, and reappointments.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we'll go ahead and log off of here and Jim, we'll see you on the executive session.